Good morning and welcome to Pinecrest Academy of Nevada, Sloan Canyon campus. My name is Lisa Satori and I'm honored to serve as the principal of Nevada's only 15-star campus. Thank you. Pinecrest Sloan Canyon is a K-12 public charter school located in the rapidly flourishing West Henderson community, serving over 2,200 incredible young scholars. As a Cognia STEM accredited school, we offer a rigorous academic program rooted in innovation, leadership, and real-world learning. Our diverse student body and dedicated educators strive each day to prepare scholars for success in college, career, and life. It is a privilege to host you all today for an important moment in Nevada's educational journey. This morning, we welcome Governor Joe Lombardo, along with distinguished state educators Dr. Steve Canavero, Interim Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Dr. Valeria Gur, Senior Fellow at the American Federation for Children, to introduce the Nevada Accountability and Education Act. This legislation reflects a bold, student-centered vision for Nevada's future, one that prioritizes accountability, empowers educators, expands opportunities for families, and ensures all students have access to the excellent education they deserve. Governor Lombardo has been a steadfast advocate for excellence and transparency in public service throughout his career. Before becoming Nevada's 31st governor, he served with distinction as Clark County Sheriff, where he led one of the nation's largest law enforcement agendas. Since taking office, he has remained focused on policies that promote strong schools, safe communities, and a thriving Nevada. We are honored to be the setting for this announcement, and we thank Governor for selecting Pinecrest Sloan Canyon as the launch site for such a pivotal initiative. Please join me in welcoming the Governor of the great state of Nevada, Governor Joe Lombardo.
All right. Are those the parents back there? Hi. Thanks for being here. And the teachers over here? Is that who I'm looking at? Thank you. Well, Lisa, thank you for opening up Pinecrest. I really appreciate the opportunity to address our education initiatives here today, and the sight of these beautiful kids is wonderful. The only thing I'm worried about, this is probably going to take a little bit of time, and I don't know if they're going to get too tired standing there.
Do we have them sit right where they're at?
Yeah, it might be a good idea to have them sit. You guys want to sit down right there? Go ahead and sit down. There you go. I know if I was that age, I would want to sit too. So, well, good morning, and thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it, and members of the Henderson City Council. Thank you for attending today. Before we get started, I'd like to thank Principal Lisa Satori, did I say it right? Her faculty and staff, and all of these awesome Pinecrest students for welcoming us here today. Is that who's the coach here? Is there a coach out here? No? Is that your two athletes right there? All right, I'd like to recognize some of the students here today. All of the students in the front here are students that are currently utilizing opportunity scholarships. Round of applause for that. And through these scholarships, these students are able to attend the schools that best meet their needs and the needs of their families. And it's very well known my favor for the Opportunity Scholarship Program here in Clark County and the entire state of Nevada. And that's one of the biggest pushes as part of this Education Accountability Act that we were going through this legislative process. And I think it's important for me to elaborate on that instead of just going through my speaking points because of the success that it brings forward to the kids that are in need in our education environment. Unfortunately, we've had significant pushback in that space, and hopefully through this legislative process and this session, we will have some definitive support going forward in that space, amongst other things. But the most important piece on that is, and I can't express it enough, is how important Opportunity Scholarships is in part of the process. It's important to have both charter school students and Opportunity Scholarship students here today because together they represent students who have been given a choice and a voice in their education. And choice is an essential part of my new education legislation, which I'm here to introduce to you today. With that, I am proud to announce the Accountability in Education Act, a bold, comprehensive plan to deliver a promise I made to Nevada students, families, and educators. After delivering the largest investment in K-12 education in Nevada's history, we owe it to our communities to match that investment with real results and real accountability. I am proud of what we've done so far, but let's be clear. We can no longer accept lack of funding as an excuse for chronic underperformance. Thank you. And I appreciate that, Mayor, and the emphasis on underperformance, because in years past, as you can imagine, the excuses that are given quite often in education is lack of funding. My attempt is to be bold and remove that excuse as part of the process, because it's too easy in education and the curriculum that's provided and the ability to make kids career ready or college ready is the funding excuse. And once you take that away, then we start paying attention to actual curriculum and performance and accountability of administrators, both administrators, school boards, and teachers. I said both, it's actually three, right? I went to school. So, I quite often get off topic in my speeches because the passion hits me in what I believe is the most important thing for our citizens here in the state of Nevada, in particular to our kids and our future of our kids. So thank you for your indulgence. That's why I'm introducing the Accountability in Education Act, legislation built on one of the guiding principles. No child in Nevada should be trapped in a failing school because of their zip code. Or held back because of how much their parents or guardians earn. Very important piece. This act represents a serious shift on how we lead and deliver education in our state. For the first time in Nevada's history, we are placing this district-level accountability at the center of our education system. Superintendents and school boards, those with the most power, will now be held directly responsible for students' outcomes, educator support, and overall school performance. If governance is the obstacle, and in some cases it clearly is, this bill gives us the authority to act, to restructure school boards, to transfer schools to local government oversight when needed, and most importantly, to get struggling schools the help they need before it's too late. We're also giving families more access, more options, and more agency than ever before. This legislation includes open enrollment, funding parity for charter schools, expanded school choice for students in persistently low-performing schools, and free access to tutoring programs selected by families themselves. At the heart of every school is a great educator. That is why this bill puts a premium on teaching excellence. Thank you. We are providing incentives for outstanding teachers and school leaders, introducing new credentialing standards for elementary educators, requiring deeper collaboration with Nevada's colleges and educator prep programs because great teaching begins with great preparation. We are also removing unnecessary burdens from teachers. This bill reduces redundant reporting, freeing up time and energy so educators can focus on what they do best, teaching our kids. And we are doubling down on early literacy, expanding our commitment to read by grade 3 and embedding the science of reading across the state. You okay? She's kicking me. I'm sorry, I lost, she made me lose my spot. All right, this bill reduces, okay, hold on, here we are. In my 2023 State of the State, I set a clear vision. Every Nevada graduate must be ready for college or a career. That means each student, regardless of background, leaves high school employed in a job that reflects a career path and pays a livable wage. Enlisted in the Armed Forces or ROTC, or enrolled in college or a post-secondary training program without the need for remediation. Career ready. This isn't just a policy goal. This is my commitment to you and to every one of these kids seated here today and throughout our entire districts throughout the state. Because we know what's at stake, the future success of our students, the strength of our communities, and the long-term health of Nevada's economy. But let's be honest, we are not there yet. I told you they had to sit down. Some schools are thriving, but far too many are not. The gap between our highest performing and lowest performing schools is wider than ever. And it is not just a school problem, it's a system problem. We often talk about high expectations for students and teachers. It's time we start holding our systems to the same high expectations. The Accountability in Education Act does just that. This is how we build a stronger and more future-ready education system. Not just for some kids, but every kid. It's time we get to work and do it better for our Nevada students. Right, Valeria? With that, I want to introduce a very important person to me, and it should be a very important person to the entire district and the state of Nevada, and that's Dr. Valeria Gur. And she's going to come forward and say a few words and expound on exactly what we're trying to achieve in the choice space. And she just recently received her PhD, so let's give her a round of applause. Come on, Blue. Be nice to her, because remember what I said, she's a friend of mine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As the governor mentioned, my name is Valeria Gur, and I'm a senior fellow with the American Federation for Children. We work to expand educational opportunities for the kids that need it most all across the country. As the governor said, he said again in his inauguration, he's here to get his stuff done. He said it differently, but kids are present and my child doesn't let me use those words. There is no governor like Governor Lombardo, and I'm getting off the script. We've been fighting for a long time to bring educational opportunities for all kids across all systems for a very long time, but our governor is a fighter. I'm just honored to be following him and to have a leader like him in Carson City really and truly representing us all. Thanks to his leadership, Nevada invested an additional $2 billion in education during the 2023 biennium, targeting early literacy, career readiness, and expanding learning options. Our governor leads with clear vision, put the students first, and demands excellence. But our governor reminds us that challenges still remain. Our kids are falling behind in math and reading. Too many graduates are still don't know what to do after they graduate and not ready for life. Too often we lack of accountability on our system, and our system falls short. And we all know that our kids deserve better. That's why the unveiling the Nevada Accountability in Education Act matters. It matters to all of us. It's not just policy, it's a plan for real reform. Finally. Enforces, yeah, thank you. We have the data, and now our governor is acting on it. Enforces accountability, it rewards strong educators, support families by expanding enrollment options, ensuring equitable funding and transportation access for charter schools, and provide options for students in low-performing schools, because every child deserves to have access to a school that meets their needs. If a school is not working for a child, they should have the opportunity to find a better option. And our governor knows that education is not one size fits all. He's fighting to make educational excellence the norm and not the exception. And with that, I would like to share how this, with that, like the person who is going to share how this legislation is going to be implemented on the ground, and what it means for the classrooms, and what it means for communities, and what it means for the future. I am truly honored to introduce someone who was brought back to state service. He has been a friend of our state for a very long time, and I'm so grateful that he's back. I mean it. He has remained a tireless advocate for Nevada students, educators, and our schools for a long time. Please help me welcome our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Steve Canavero. And for the record, he has a PhD for a very long time.
I was actually wondering there for a minute who she was going to introduce. So thank you for the kind words. And I'll just say for a moment, I can see the clock, and I know I have about 10 or so minutes, so I'll be mindful to get us to questions. But I'll say there has been a question I field frequently, which is, hey, are you crazy? You're coming back? I can't answer the crazy question, because that might be true. But I'm excited to be back. And the reason for that is the governor. Governor, I watched your Indy interview, and I heard the sincerity in your voice and the words that you used and you used today, commitment and promise, and I believe it. I believe it. I don't think those are just words. I think your passion for change and for kids, especially students in our system that don't have the opportunities for whatever circumstance, is real. And anything I can do to support that, I'm happy to do that. So thank you, Governor, for your advocacy and your sincerity and your passion. Talk a little bit about before I get into some specifics about the components of the bill that the Governor touched on, maybe some detail relative to those. I want to say a couple my perspective on the bill. I believe the Governor's Accountability and Education Act treats accountability as a measure of our willingness to accept responsibility for actions and outcomes. I don't, and by our, I mean the adults. The governor referenced the districts and folks in power. It's all of our responsibility to accept the responsibility for our actions and outcomes for our youth across the state. I also think that this bill presents accountability as a means, not an end. It is not us versus them. It is a union of folks together to be held accountable to ensure that our students can and will graduate college and career ready. I want to also mention the governor's specifics around what that means, because that is important. If that is our goal line that we are all striving for all of our youth, the students here all the way up, the athletes in the back, College and career ready, the governor said, if you choose to go into the military, you can enlist in a branch of the armed forces. If you choose to be employed, it's a career path, and it's a livable wage career. And if you choose after college after high school to enter into post-secondary, it is without the need for remediation, or it's in a post-secondary workforce training program that's in demand and aligned to a career path. I also don't think it's the accountability as a means is also relative to what part of the system is accountable. And I really appreciated the governor's focus that this isn't a teacher challenge, this isn't a principal challenge, this isn't a school challenge, and I think that's what the data would show. This is a system-wide issue that we must address at the system level. When I got 10 days on, I think today's my 10th day on the job. Didn't have this on the bingo card for the 10th day, but I've been asking lots of questions, listening to a lot of folks, reviewing a lot of data, if you will. What are the signals saying about our education system, the health of our education system, and what could we do about it? We have a lot to be proud of, as the governor mentioned. Some fantastic schools, globally competitive schools. You look at the feedback and the signals from their 4th grade reading, our early literacy efforts, we're seeing some progress there. We also know at the 8th grade, we're seeing tremendous challenges with math in middle school, a key benchmark for entering high school, prepared for the rigors that will confront our students to be prepared for post-secondary. If you pull back from the student level grades, specific assessments, and you look at the trajectory of our achievement, as the governor mentioned, the gap is wider than ever. And that is incredibly troubling. What that I'm understanding that to mean is that the students prior to the pandemic that were achieving across demographics, across socioeconomic status, they have returned and they're achieving. We are making progress, and they are accelerating their learning and recovering from the learning loss. But what we also see is that the students that were challenged before COVID are coming back and losing ground quickly. The gap between those two populations of students has the potential to set up 2 different education systems in the state that it cannot happen. So let me dig in a little bit to some of the details about what this might look like. And the kids are voting with their feet. They're starting to leave. I'll be quick. As the governor mentioned, accountability for those with the most authority and most power. The bill does expand the statewide system of accountability to include district performance and district designations. So you all are likely familiar with the school-based designations. Now imagine that the school-based designations now roll up, and now we have a district-wide accountability view where the districts are then their performance, and then they're also designated. There are 2 different considerations. One is the simple explanation. We have school performance, and so in the bill it contemplates that we would aggregate school performance for a particular district, and then that is how the district is designated or how the district receives its performance designation. There's also a designation relative to governance. On either of those 2, let's say, domains of school performance or board responsibility or board governance, a district could be identified as low performing. And on the governance side, the bill includes things like leadership instability, financial hardship, or systemic inequity in access, resources, or outcomes. If a district is found to be low performing for governance or for collective school performance, they enter into a 2-year planning or a 2-year improvement plan. If it's around governance, then the responsibility is for the board to improve, and it's a board improvement plan. If it's around school performance, then it's a district performance improvement plan. And then if that's successful, and this is what we all hope, then we're back. That 2-year probation is off, and our performance then improves. In the event that it doesn't, then a district could be identified as underperforming, subject to targeted state oversight or state intervention. We also have the school system is still in place, and that follows a similar path as the district. I think you could see that the bill contemplates having an aligned or coherent view or priorities within the district from the governance all the way through to the school. So the school improvement planning process is similar. If a school is identified as low performing, they then get 2 years to do a probationary improvement period in line with the district. And then if that doesn't work and improve, then they have, the bill contemplates corrective measures and then state intervention. So a continuum of, as the governor put it, real consequences, but an opportunity along the way to improve. So accountability as a means to expand opportunities and access for all students. The governor mentioned the open enrollment. This is where it plays out as a means. So we all know open enrollment, a school has 5 open seats. I apply for my attendance zone school. I want to go to school at that, or participate at that school, then I could apply for a seat at that school. But this bill requires a district to provide transportation, either directly or through a subsidy to families. If the student school is low performing and they attend a school that is ranked in one of the top 3 performance rankings. So a means for opportunity and access for students, and it prioritizes across the board in the open enrollment system students who are enrolled in a low performing school to have priority access in the district's open enrollment plan. Cities and counties are mentioned. The bill amends existing law for a city or county to sponsor a new charter school, add additional campuses, or lift the enrollment cap, increase enrollment, or to increase operation additional campuses if the city or county is located in a low-performing district, and the new charter or increased enrollment by way of the new campuses or the cap, the new students who are served reside in an attendance zone of a low-performing or persistently underperforming school. The governor mentioned transportation parity for charter schools. At the end of the line, as the sort of progressive supports and consequences carry out, the bill does include alternative achievement options for chronically low-performing schools for students and their families. And those include access on the open enrollment, access on charters subject to space availability, as well as access to a private school. In order to facilitate support and options for students in a persistently low-performing school, the bill includes that the treasurer would establish the Nevada Integrity and Academic Funding Program. Within that program are RISE accounts, and those accounts may be used by parents or guardians to pay for certain qualified educational expenses to meet the needs of the family. Governor called it great schools, great educators. There's a theme throughout the bill specific to empowered and effective educators. And a few of the options here include innovation schools. And so the bill creates an opportunity for districts or the State Public Charter School Authority to designate a school as an innovation school. And as I read the bill and became knowledgeable about the innovation program, it's sort of the from us, for us. It's teachers and principals leading a school with autonomy and additional accountability to implement innovative educational practices that they bring to improve academic achievement, increase educational equity, and address specific challenges. An innovation school is an example of one of, I think there's 5 to 6 different options for state intervention, and this is one should the school community vote to pursue an innovation school. If there are multiple innovation schools, either geographically proximate or theoretically sort of thematically aligned, the district or the charter school authority can create an innovation zone. And there are provisions in the bill that consider sustainability of that, including the unique nature and potential need for a different bargaining agreement for that particular innovation zone in order for it to sustain its achievement. Let's see, where do I want to go? Oh, let's go to the Excellence in Education account. The governor mentioned incentives for high-performing teachers. So yeah, that piqued everyone's now listening. Good, good. The Excellence in Education account is an incentive pool created at the state. The bill has it not exceeding $30 million for qualifying districts to choose to enroll to pay out financial incentives of up to 10% of teacher and administrator base salary for persistently effective teachers and administrators. Qualifying just has to do with the distribution of the ratings in the educator performance framework. Expect a professional distribution of those ratings. And what does it look like for teachers and administrators? 3 years of highly effective status for a teacher, and you qualify for the bonus. 5 for an administrator, and of course that can be had every 3 or 5 years. So year 1, year 4, and for teachers, I can't do math on the fly, but you get the idea. There is a provision within the bill to reduce burdens on schools through reporting. And there's a pathway for teachers and administrators to register a petition for a report that they believe needs to be modified, suspended, or eliminated based upon its burden or its duplication or redundancy. And that goes to the district superintendent, and then it can go up to this superintendent of public instruction to then modify, suspend, eliminate, or request additional information. Lastly, related to great schools and great educators within the bill, there is a provision to extend immunity to school employees, both from civil and criminal, for good faith action to intervene in a physical altercation or incident that poses an imminent risk to the safety of pupils and other school employees in persons or proximity. And there's a number of conditions, of course, relative to that and scope of employment and acting within state and federal laws, but it extends civil and criminal immunity. And then lastly, just doubling down on early literacy and the science of reading. The governor mentioned a new teaching credential requiring the Commission on Professional Standards to work with the Nevada System of Higher Education for a new program for elementary education that based on foundational literacy and the science of reading. It requires across the state professional development for teachers in K-3 on the science of reading. And there's a pilot program established at the department for a STEM and literacy program as well in early learning. And lastly, I'll just mention the Empowering Parents account. This is an account that is contemplated to be funded $1 million to assist parents and guardians with paying for expenses specific to the Read by Grade 3 Act for tutoring or access to other high quality literacy services beyond what the district offers. But importantly, this program administered at the district or charter school level does prioritize payment for families based upon household income. And then from a list of approved or curated list of vendors. Okay, I think I may have gone over. Now's the time when I can invite the governor up and we can either sing Islands in the Stream or take questions. Whichever, maybe we can ask the kids for a vote.
So we'll give the opportunity for just a couple questions, because as you can imagine, whoops.
Little microphone.
Did you turn it on?
Oh, we'll wait on you. Go
I
ahead.
appreciate it.
Look at all these people waiting on you out here. So as you can imagine, education with Dr. Canavero and explaining a complicated omnibus act, it's difficult to understand it on the fly. But the executive branch doesn't have the luxury of explaining all the details as the legislature does whenever they bring a very complicated, very cumbersome bill forward. And today is the opportunity to do that. So we have not received the bill out of the Legislative Council Bureau yet. I anticipate early next week release, and then we'll schedule a hearing via the legislative process. So there are some questions that you probably have on the financial side there. I'm not at privy to tell you because the financial aspects of it are confidential until it's actually exposed. With that said, happy to answer some questions, and I'll let Dr. Canavero answer most of them. As you can tell, he's a little more versed on the bill as compared to me, but it's important that we have a global understanding of the bill versus what we're trying to do through the details. So, sir.
This is Josh Governor, how do you merge this bill with what Senate Majority Leader Nicole Canizaro is trying to do? She announced this week that next week she's going to introduce her version of an education bill. How do you work with her and Assembly Speaker Yeager to make sure that your priorities get passed? Because last year there was the issue of opportunity scholarships. So how do you make sure that this gets passed exactly how you want it?
Yeah, great question. And for those of you who may not heard it, there's a competing bill coming from the Senate Majority Leader Canizaro. Similar in some aspects, different in aspects. And that's a matter of a conversation, right? The ability to negotiate and have good conversations, right, wrong, or indifferent, on different philosophies as we go forward. And that's the reason why our government process is very successful, because we have that discourse and ability to achieve consensus and hopefully bring the most important aspects, the hills to die for, the lines in the sand, remain in the bill that you present, similar to what she's attempting to do. So we're in those discussions, and as I said, her bill's coming out the same time mine. Hopefully, fingers crossed, and then we'll have the opportunity to sit down and do the checklist and determine what is of importance to both me and the state of Nevada and the legislative process. Yes, ma'am.
Governor Lombardo, it's Whitney Lane with Channel 3. We still hear a lot about safety concerns from staff around the valley. One thing they talk about is a student commits some kind of act against a staff member or another student and they're back in the classroom. Will you be addressing some of the laws with discipline once again? And when we talked about the extending the civil immunity as part of this, can you kind of break that down a little more, and does that play into this as well?
Right, so we passed a significant legislation last session, reference school environment and the safety environment with that. And as you can imagine, there's unintended consequences or unforeseen consequences. When you establish a bill, they tend to be not very all-encompassing. So we've identified some nuances, as you described, and there's different factions going through the legislative process, not only in my bill, in a couple of other legislators' bills, to address those nuances and those deficiencies that we've identified and brought forward. And I didn't hear the immunity part.
Can you just expand a little more on the extending the civil?
You want to talk to that, Steve?
Yeah, sure.
Dr. Canavero will address that issue.
Yeah, I'll do my best, and maybe just kind of reading out from my notes might be more helpful. The civil and criminal liability or immunity from that extends to teachers or administrators or school employees acting in good faith to intervene in a physical altercation or an incident that poses an imminent risk to the safety of pupils or other school employees or persons in proximity. The only conversation I had with in the last few days with somebody was specific to breaking up fights. That was the example that they gave and wanting to intervene. I'll just add a little bit, which is that they have to be acting within the course and scope of their employment and role, in a manner that's consistent with state and federal law and the policies of the district. Does that help? Okay, thank you.
And just furtherance of the interaction with the student, they are removed from their current immediate environment, and they're given a performance plan, and then once there's an agreement upon the performance plan, then they are returned to the environment. Previously, they never removed them from the environment. Now we have the opportunity to identify what the faults are, the gaps are, and the needs of both sides of the equation before we bring them back in. So. Yes, ma'am. Can you stand up, ma'am? Ma'am, I can't hear you.
I was wondering if you have a ballpark estimate of the cost of your bill, and how do you plan to balance any new spending with the likely smaller budget based on the economic forum projections? If there have to be cuts, will K-12 education be kept whole?
We're going to do the best we can. So it's a triage process, right? Depending on what the economic forum brings forward, and we'll go through the the hierarchy of needs. In my perception, education is probably at the top, along with Medicaid, Medicare, and healthcare services provided, which are the highest encumbrance of the state budget. But it is I fully intend to ensure that education stays whole through this process. Because remember what I said at the beginning of this, lack of funding is not an excuse through this process. So we're gonna do everything. And as far as the ballpark figure, I can't give you that because it's been changing by the day. Only because of the perception of the economic forum numbers and the reality of the numbers that will come forward May 1st. Yes, sir.
Clark County Superintendent have any role with this or any input on this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as you can imagine, when something of this breadth comes forward, a bill of this type, those discussions have been a year away. A year previously. And she was intimately involved in every step of the way. And she's still involved. Obviously, I had a conversation with her as early as yesterday, in continuing to identify whatever gaps we may have identified in the bill. We've already presented an amendment to the bill, and that's the reason why it hasn't come out of LCB. It came out originally. We provided an amendment in discussion with the Senate Majority Leader, and then now it'll come back out again, and then eventually it'll have a committee meeting and a vote on that, and hopefully goes to a floor session, and then the nuances of government. But when we talked about the Opportunity Scholarship, or the question was presented from last time, there eventually are lines in the sand in those negotiations, and Opportunity Scholarship is one of them. So we'll figure that out as we go forward. Jessica?
Yeah, Governor Lombardo, you mentioned Opportunity Scholarship.
Yeah, I didn't see any Holocaust article.
It was there.
Oh, I didn't see it.
All right, I'll share it with
All
you.
right, go ahead.
It was good. Governor Lombardo, you mentioned Opportunity Scholarships. Can you talk a little bit more about how those negotiations are going to work with Senate Majority Leader Canizaro and what you'd be willing to give her, such as like...
Yeah, it would be malpractice, I say, to present that publicly. Okay, I would. It's going to be a matter of negotiation, and the elephant in the room is we are getting along, we are communicating, and we're talking about a lot more than just education. As you can imagine, how complicated the entire process is. But she is, and both she and I are looking forward to the initial conversations coming next week. Hopefully next week. Because you can imagine we're getting into the last 4 weeks of session, and you want to make sure that you have a complete evaluation of policies of this size, and that everybody has a voice in the process. So. Last question, right here. Go ahead.
Yes, when it comes to open enrollment, is it going to be a lottery system? And then also, is there some concern that some of the top performing schools are already at capacity? So how will that work? And then also, will the state help with some of the funding for the transportation?
So transportation's in the pupil-centered funding plan, and obviously that will come out. Not come out of the funding plan, but the amount will be in, I think 2610 is the state budget for that. So there's funding there. I think the first question was potential for being full or a lottery for the open enrollment. Is that right? Okay. So there is a prioritization, as I referred to in the components of the bill, that if a student is attending a low performing or underperforming school, they have a priority access, so they're sort of first in line for open seats. There's a regulation function to describe how to determine capacity. So there's obviously a question like what is capacity, and so that will have to go through the regulatory process in order to determine. And then the communications would fall from there relative to whether they're under capacity or at capacity. Yeah.
All right, so this will conclude the press conference, and for an opportunity for individuals that wanted to ask questions and we weren't able to address it publicly, Dr. Canavero and Dr. Gur will stand by and do a sidebar with you, okay? I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you very much. And I want to thank, most importantly, these young minds that are standing and sitting behind me. And I publicly want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your discipline here today. I appreciate that. And good luck to you. all right? And we're going to make education better for you, I promise. Thank you.
Wow, there's a lot of mics there.
Yes, sir.